The massive Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace like metal mountains appearing out of thin air. Their gray hulls gleamed under the distant sunlight as they positioned themselves in a standard attack formation near Mars' orbit. The fleet numbered over 300 vessels, each one large enough to cast shadows on the red planet below. Admiral James Walker stood on the bridge of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his weathered face showing no signs of the tension he felt inside. The massive holographic display in front of him showed the Imperial fleet in all its terrifying glory. He had trained for this moment for 20 years, but seeing the actual scale of an Imperial invasion force was something else entirely. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Rogers from her communication station. "They're demanding to speak with Earth's highest authority." Walker nodded, straightening his blue uniform. "Put them through on the main screen." The holographic display shifted, revealing the face of Imperial Commander Rax. The alien commander looked almost human, except for his golden skin and completely black eyes. He wore an elaborate uniform covered in medals and ribbons. "This is Imperial Commander Rax of the Galactic Empire's third expansion fleet," the alien announced in perfect English. "Your world has been selected for integration into our glorious empire. Surrender now, and your transition will be peaceful. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "This is Admiral James Walker of the Earth Defense Force. I'm afraid I'll have to decline your generous offer." Commander Rax's expression darkened. "You don't understand your situation, Admiral. We have scanned your world. You barely have a presence on your own moon. Your ships use primitive chemical rockets. You cannot hope to resist." "Perhaps," Walker replied calmly, "you should scan again." Confusion flickered across Rax's face, but before he could respond, alerts began blaring across his bridge. The camera feed showed officers rushing to their stations in panic. What the Imperial fleet had failed to notice was the web of energy that had been quietly spreading between Earth's defense satellites. Thousands of small, seemingly harmless communication platforms had been silently linking together, forming an invisible barrier around Earth's orbital space. "Last chance to leave peacefully, Commander," Walker offered. "Earth is a restricted zone. No empires allowed." Rax's face twisted with rage. "No primitive world defies the Empire. All ships, open fire. Show these humans the price of arrogance." The Imperial fleet launched their attack, thousands of energy beams streaking toward Earth. But when they hit the invisible barrier, something remarkable happened. The energy weapons simply stopped, their power absorbed into the defensive network. Then, like water flowing through a pipe, the energy was redirected back into space, manifesting as beautiful aurora-like patterns. "Impossible," Rax shouted, pounding his control panel. "Launch fighters. Fire kinetic weapons. Break through their defenses." The Empire's fighters swarmed forward like angry wasps, only to bounce off the energy field as if it were solid steel. Railgun shots and missiles met the same fate, either being stopped completely or redirected harmlessly into space. Walker watched calmly as the Empire's mighty fleet exhausted its initial assault. When the barrage finally ceased, he spoke again. "As I said, Commander, Earth is off limits. We're not interested in joining your empire. In fact, we're not interested in having any empires in this solar system at all. This technology, how did you hide this from our scans?" Rax demanded, his composure cracking. "That's not your concern," Walker replied. "What should concern you is what happens if you continue this attack. So far, our defense system has only redirected your energy. Would you like to see what happens when we let it redirect that energy more purposefully?" To emphasize his point, a small fraction of the absorbed energy was released in a controlled burst, causing one of the Imperial fighters to disappear in a flash of light. The demonstration sent a clear message. Earth could turn the Empire's own power against them. Rax stared silently for a long moment, his black eyes unreadable. Finally, he spoke through clenched teeth. "This isn't over, Admiral. The Empire does not forget, and it does not forgive defiance." "Then I suggest you remember this day well," Walker responded. "Earth is closed to empires. Spread the word." As the Imperial fleet retreated, Walker watched the energy field shimmer with the last traces of absorbed power. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Empire hadn't gone the way the aliens expected. But then again, that was exactly according to plan. Little did the Empire know, this was just the beginning of their problems. 50 years earlier, on a cold winter morning in Antarctica, Dr. Marcus Reed stood in a newly excavated ice cave, staring at something that would change human history forever. His breath formed clouds in the freezing air as he studied the strange metal walls that had been hidden under thousands of years of ice. "Are you seeing this?" He spoke into his radio, his voice filled with wonder. "The entire structure is giving off heat. It's been here for who knows how long, and it's still powered." The discovery had started with a routine geological survey. Ground-penetrating radar had revealed something massive buried deep in the ice, something that clearly wasn't natural. What they found was beyond anything they had expected, a vast complex of alien origin. Dr. Reed ran his gloved hand over the smooth metal surface, watching in amazement as symbols lit up at his touch. "It's responding to human contact," he reported. "These aren't just markings, they're controls." That was the moment when a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional map of Earth's solar system materialized, surrounded by a complex web of lines and points. But what caught everyone's attention was the simple message that appeared below it in multiple languages, including perfect English. "Protected zone status. Active. Guardian system. Dormant. Awaiting authorized activation." Over the next 5 years, Dr. Reed led a secret international team of scientists in studying the facility. They learned that Earth had been designated as a protected zone by an ancient race that called themselves the Guardians. This advanced civilization had set up similar protective systems around numerous young worlds, shielding them from interference until they were ready to join the wider galaxy. "The technology is incredible," Dr. Reed explained to the United Nations Security Council in a classified session. "The Guardians created a defense system that doesn't rely on weapons of mass destruction. Instead, it uses the energy of any attack against it, absorbing and redirecting hostile forces." The council listened intently as Reed continued. "But here's the most remarkable part. The system was designed to be integrated with the defending civilization's own technology. The Guardians wanted us to understand and operate it ourselves, not just rely on their machinery." The next decade saw the largest secret project in human history. Under the cover of launching communication satellites and space stations, Earth began building its defensive network. Each satellite contained components reverse-engineered from Guardian technology, forming nodes in what would become an impenetrable shield around Earth. The beauty of this system, Reed told his daughter Lisa as they worked together in their lab, is that it makes conquest impossible while allowing peaceful contact. Any ship can pass through the barrier, unless it carries weapons with hostile intent. Lisa, who had grown up watching her father's work, nodded in understanding. "So we're not just hiding behind alien technology. We're using it to protect ourselves and others." The official story presented to the public was one of steady but unremarkable progress in space technology. Earth maintained the appearance of a relatively primitive civilization, with chemical rockets and basic satellites. Meanwhile, the truth was hidden in plain sight. Every communications satellite, every space station, every probe carried a piece of Guardian technology. By the time the Imperial fleet arrived 50 years later, Earth's defense system was fully operational. The seemingly primitive humans had spent decades preparing for this moment, knowing that sooner or later some galactic power would try to claim their world. Dr. Reed didn't live to see his work tested against the Empire, but his daughter Lisa stood in Earth Defense Station Alpha's control room, watching alongside Admiral Walker as the Imperial fleet's weapons were harmlessly absorbed and redirected. "Your father would be proud," Walker told her quietly as they watched the Empire's ships retreat. He always said that the best defense was one that didn't need to destroy the enemy. Lisa smiled, thinking of all the nights her father had spent studying Guardian technology, determined to understand not just how it worked, but why it had been created. He used to say that the Guardians left us more than just a defense system. They left us a responsibility. As the last Imperial ship disappeared into hyperspace, Lisa knew that responsibility was just beginning. Earth wasn't just protecting itself anymore. They were about to become the new guardians for countless other worlds under the Empire's threat. The real work was about to begin. The Imperial Palace on Capital World gleamed like a mountain of crystals under the light of 3 suns. Inside the Grand War Room, Commander Rax stood before the Imperial Council, his golden skin now pale with shame as he reported his failure at Earth. "Impossible," thundered High Commander Dex, slamming his fist on the polished black table. "No pre-FTL world has ever resisted Imperial integration. You're telling me these humans not only refused us, but humiliated our fleet." Rax activated a hologram showing the Earth defense system in action. "Their technology is unlike anything we've encountered. Our weapons simply stopped working. Everything we threw at them was absorbed and could be turned back against us." The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and arguments. The Empire had conquered 10,000 worlds over 3 centuries. The idea that a single primitive planet could resist them was unthinkable. "Then we'll send a bigger fleet," declared Admiral Port, her metallic eyes glinting. "No defense can withstand the full might of the Imperial Armada." 2 weeks later, a fleet twice the size of the first one appeared near Jupiter. This time, they tried a different approach. Hundreds of smaller ships attempted to slip through gaps in Earth's defensive network, while larger vessels launched a frontal assault. Ambassador Anna Thompson stood calmly before the giant screen in the United Nations chamber, facing the Imperial Admiral. "Your ships are once again in restricted space," she said firmly. "As we informed Commander Rax, Earth is not interested in joining your empire." "You don't have a choice," Admiral Port snarled. "The Empire doesn't take no for an answer." Thompson allowed herself a small smile. "I believe you'll find we do have a choice, and we choose no." The battle that followed was even shorter than the first. The defensive network didn't just stop the Imperial weapons. It adapted. When ships tried to slip through small gaps, the energy field adjusted, creating new barriers. Every trick the Empire attempted was met with a countermeasure. Back in the Imperial Palace, the fury was reaching new heights. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. News of Earth's defiance was spreading. Several conquered worlds were showing signs of unrest, inspired by humanity's resistance. "This cannot stand." High Commander Dex rage. "If one world can defy us, others will follow. The Empire's authority must be absolute." The Empire launched 6 more attacks over the next month. Each fleet was larger than the last. They tried new weapons, different tactics, even attempts at computer warfare. Nothing worked. Earth's defense system absorbed every attack, redirected every strike, and turned the Empire's own power against them. During the last attempt, Ambassador Thompson delivered a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Let me be clear. Earth is now and forever will be closed to empires. We reject your authority. We deny your right to rule. And we will not stand idle while you bully younger civilizations into submission." The Empire's frustration reached its peak when they discovered their own colony worlds were beginning to question imperial rule. Reports surfaced of strange Earth vessels appearing near distant planets, sharing information about the defensive technology. In a secret session of the Imperial Council, a junior member dared to ask the unthinkable, "What if we can't beat them?" The question earned him an immediate execution, but the doubt had been planted. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that superior military force could solve any problem. Now they faced an enemy that made force useless. High Commander Dex stood at his palace window, watching the triple sunset. His aides had just reported another failed attempt to bypass Earth's defenses. This time, the humans hadn't even bothered to respond to communications. Their silence was more insulting than any words could have been. "Send word to all fleets," he finally ordered, his voice cold with rage. "Prepare for full mobilization. If we must burn half the galaxy to reach Earth, so be it. No one defies the Empire and lives to tell about it." But even as he gave the order, reports were coming in of more colonies showing signs of rebellion. Earth's message of defiance was spreading faster than Imperial ships could travel. The Empire was about to learn a hard lesson. Sometimes the strongest defense was one that made attack pointless. Captain Thomas Green guided his ship, the Shadow Runner, through the dark side of an Imperial mining colony. The ship's special coating, developed from Guardian technology, made it completely invisible to Imperial sensors. In the cargo hold, he carried something far more valuable than gold or jewels: hope. "Landing zone clear," whispered Lieutenant Emma White through the ship's internal comm. "Resistance members are in position." The Shadow Runner touched down silently in an abandoned quarry. As soon as the ship landed, figures emerged from the shadows. Aliens of various species who had secretly organized against Imperial rule. "You're really from Earth?" asked the Resistance leader, a tall being named Cole. His rough, stone-like skin showed scars from years of Imperial mining work. The world that told the Empire no. Thomas nodded, opening a secured crate. "And we brought you something better than weapons. We brought you a shield." Inside the crate lay components of the same defensive technology that protected Earth. But these were smaller, designed to protect cities rather than planets. The Resistance members stared at them with wide eyes. "Once installed," Thomas explained, "these will make it impossible for Imperial ships to bombard your cities. Their weapons will be useless against you." This scene was repeating itself across hundreds of worlds. Earth had launched what they called the Liberation Network, a secret operation to spread defensive technology to oppressed worlds. Each successful mission weakened the Empire's grip on its territories. Back on Earth, in the underground command center of the Liberation Network, Director Maria Lopes studied a holographic map of known space. Green dots showed worlds where defensive systems had been successfully installed. Their number was growing every day. "Report from Sector 7, an operator called out. Mining Colony Beta has activated their shield." Imperial forces attempted to respond but couldn't penetrate the defense grid. Maria smiled. Each green dot represented not just a protected world, but a crack in the Empire's foundation. The whole operation had been carefully planned over months, targeting worlds that could become strong allies once freed. On one such world, Thomas and his team were teaching local engineers how to maintain their new defenses. "The best part," he told them, "is that the system learns and adapts. The more the Empire attacks, the stronger the shields become." Word of the liberation spread through hidden channels. Worlds that had suffered under Imperial rule for generations began to see a way out. The Empire's greatest weapon had always been fear. Fear of orbital bombardment. Fear of their massive fleets. But what good were those threats against cities they couldn't attack? "The Empire is losing control of the outer sectors," reported an intelligence officer during an Earth Defense Force briefing. "Their ships are spread thin trying to maintain order. More worlds are openly declaring independence every day." But the Liberation Network did more than just deliver technology. They brought Earth's message. No empire had the right to rule over others. Every world deserved the chance to choose its own path. Thomas saw this truth in action during a mission to a forest world where the locals lived in giant trees. "We don't want to fight," their elder told him. "We just want to live in peace, to follow our own ways." "That's exactly why we're here," Thomas replied, watching his team install shield generators. "To make sure you have that choice." The Empire tried desperately to stop the spread of the technology. They increased patrols, imposed stricter controls, and executed anyone suspected of contacting Earth. But they couldn't be everywhere at once, And the Shadow Runner wasn't the only stealth ship in Earth's fleet. In the Imperial Palace, reports of failing control caused panic. Worlds that had been stable for centuries were suddenly refusing to pay taxes or provide resources. Without the threat of orbital bombardment, Imperial control was crumbling. "This is worse than rebellion," an Imperial advisor warned. "They aren't fighting us. They're simply making us irrelevant." As Thomas prepared for another stealth mission, he looked at the message painted on his ship's hull. "Freedom isn't given or taken. It's protected." The Liberation Network was proving that power didn't come from the ability to destroy. True power came from the ability to protect, not just yourself, but others. And that was something the Empire had never understood. The Imperial capital's night sky turned bright as day as 10,000 warships lifted off simultaneously. Their engines created artificial dawn, casting long shadows across the city. This was the Empire's largest military operation in its 300-year history. High Commander Dex stood on his command ship's bridge, watching his massive fleet assemble. "The time for patience is over," he announced through the fleet-wide communication system. "Today we crush this human rebellion once and for all." But Earth had been preparing for this moment. Admiral Walker received the news of the Imperial fleet's departure with calm determination. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Operation Sunrise begins now." Across Imperial space, hundreds of supposedly loyal worlds have been waiting for this signal. As the Empire's main fleet headed toward Earth, these worlds activated their hidden defense systems all at once. City after city, planet after planet, defensive shields suddenly appeared, cutting off Imperial control. The Empire's communication networks exploded with panic. Emergency signals poured in from every sector. Mining Colony 7 has raised shields. Agricultural World Beta declares independence. Sector 9 garrison cut off from orbital support. Trading Hub Delta stops all Imperial shipments. On the factory world of Industrian, Thomas Green watched from the Shadow Runner as massive shield generators activated across the planet's surface. Main industrial center secured. He reported back to Earth. The Empire just lost 40% of their weapons production. The coordinated uprising caught the Empire completely off guard. They had gathered their forces to crush Earth, only to find their own territory slipping through their fingers. High Commander Dex received the reports with growing horror. "Turn the fleet around," he ordered. "We must secure our core worlds." "Too late," his advisor whispered, pointing to updated star charts. Green dots representing protected worlds now covered nearly half the galaxy. "Even if we split our forces, we can't reach them all." But Dex refused to accept defeat. "Continue to Earth," he roared. "Once we break their defense system, all these rebellious worlds will fall back in line." The Imperial fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, their numbers darkening space itself. Earth's defense stations tracked 10,000 ships, the largest invasion force ever assembled. "This is your last chance, humans." Dex's message boomed across all frequencies. "Surrender your shield technology, or we will demonstrate the true meaning of Imperial power." Admiral Walker's response was brief. "Look behind you." As Dex turned to his rear scanners, his black eyes widened in shock. The freed worlds had not been idle. Hundreds of ships appeared from hyperspace, vessels that once served the Empire but now flew the flags of their liberated worlds. "This is the Free Worlds Alliance," announced a familiar voice, Captain Thomas Green, now commanding a fleet of his own. "We stand with Earth." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The Empire's massive fleet found itself caught between Earth's impenetrable defenses and the free world's ships attacking from behind. Their own weapons were turned against them, absorbed by shield technology, and redirected back. From his command post on Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Walker watched the Imperial fleet's formation break apart. "They're learning the hardest lesson in war," he told his officers. "Numbers mean nothing when your weapons don't work." The Empire's mighty armada, pride of 3 centuries of conquest, began to retreat in disarray. Ships disappeared into hyperspace by the hundreds, then thousands, fleeing back to their increasingly unstable territory. High Commander Dex stood rigid on his bridge, watching his grand fleet scatter. "Impossible," he whispered. "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated." But they had been defeated, not by superior weapons or larger armies, but by the simple ability to say no and make it stick. Earth's defense technology had changed the rules of war itself. As the last Imperial ships fled, Admiral Walker sent a final message. "Let this be clear to all future empires. The age of conquest is over. The age of protection has begun." The Empire had struck with all its might, and found that might alone was no longer enough. News of the Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On thousands of worlds, people who had lived under Imperial rule for generations began to rise up. The great wave of freedom that started on Earth was now becoming a galactic tsunami. Lisa Reed stood in her father's old laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing the spread of defensive technology. Each bright dot represented another world choosing freedom. The legacy of her father's discovery was changing the face of known space. "Another sector declares independence," reported her assistant. "The mining colonies in the Outer Rim have formed their own coalition. They're requesting Earth's protection protocols." The transformation was happening faster than anyone had expected. Without the Empire's fleet to enforce control, centuries of built-up resentment exploded into action. But unlike previous rebellions, this one didn't lead to bloodshed. The defensive shields made violence pointless. On the desert world of Aridus, the former Imperial governor watched helplessly as local leaders activated their planetary shield. His threats of orbital bombardment meant nothing now. By sunset, he was on a transport ship, fleeing with other Imperial officials. "The amazing thing," Captain Thomas Green told a group of Earth diplomats, "is how peaceful most transitions have been. When people know they can't be attacked from space, they simply stop following Imperial orders." Earth had become more than just a single protected world. It was now a symbol of hope, a blueprint for freedom that others could follow. The defensive technology was spreading, but so were Earth's ideas about independence and self-determination. In her new role as Chief of Technology Distribution, Lisa worked to improve the shield systems. "My father always said the Guardians left us this technology for a reason," she explained to her team. "They wanted us to share it, to help others protect themselves." The newly freed worlds began to develop their own unique paths. Some formed regional alliances, others chose independence. Trade routes were redrawn, new relationships formed. Without the Empire's controlling hand, natural cooperation began to flourish. Ambassador Thompson found herself busier than ever, helping new governments establish themselves. "The key," she told a gathering of former colony worlds, "is that each world must choose its own way forward. Earth's protection comes with no strings attached." But not everyone welcomed these changes. Some Imperial loyalists tried to fight back, launching attacks on newly freed worlds. Their efforts proved futile. The defensive shields held firm, and each failed attack only made them stronger. In orbit around a gas giant, Thomas's ship encountered an Imperial cruiser attacking a small mining station. The station's shields absorbed every shot, while Thomas transmitted a simple message: "You're fighting a war you can't win. The old ways are over." Back on Earth, Lisa made a breakthrough that her father would have loved. She found a way to enhance the defensive systems, making them even more efficient. "The technology doesn't just protect against weapons," she announced. "It can shield against natural disasters, solar flares, even asteroid impacts." This discovery led to the establishment of the Sanctuary Protocol, a program to help developing civilizations protect themselves from both natural and artificial threats. Earth was taking up the mantle of the ancient guardians, protecting young worlds until they could protect themselves. The Imperial Palace, once the center of galactic power, stood largely empty now. Most of its officials had fled to distant estates, trying to save what wealth they could. The few who remained watched their authority evaporate day by day. Report from the core worlds, an Earth defense operator announced. 3 more systems have activated planetary shields. The Empire now controls less than 15% of their former territory. Lisa stood at her father's old desk, looking at his first notes about the Guardian facility in Antarctica. "You were right, Dad," she whispered. "The best weapon isn't a weapon at all. It's a shield." As the revolution spread, the galaxy was learning what Earth had discovered. True strength lay not in the power to destroy, but in the power to protect. The age of empires was ending, and the age of guardians was beginning. The stars themselves seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating freedom spread across the galaxy. The remains of the once mighty Imperial fleet gathered for one final desperate attack. High Commander Dex had called in every remaining ship, every loyal soldier for this last attempt to restore the Empire's glory. 5,000 warships assembled near the Empire's last stronghold. "This ends today," Dex announced to his commanders. "We strike at Earth itself. Without their leadership, the rebellion will crumble." But Earth had changed in the months since the revolution began. The defense network had grown stronger, more sophisticated. Admiral Walker stood calmly on his command station as the Imperial fleet approached. "They never learned," he said quietly. "All this time, and they still think the answer is more ships, more weapons." The Imperial fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, and exotic matter torpedoes streaked toward Earth. The attack was massive enough to have destroyed a dozen worlds in the Empire's prime. But something different happened this time. Earth's defense network didn't just stop the attack. It caught it. The energy weapons, the missiles, all of it hung suspended in space, trapped in a web of glowing lines. Then, with a flash that lit up half the solar system, the entire assault simply vanished. "What happened?" Dex demanded. "Where did our weapons go?" The answer came as a message from Earth. "Your energy has been converted to power our planetary shields. Thank you for your contribution to galactic peace." That was the moment the Empire truly died. Not with a great explosion or a heroic battle, but with the simple demonstration that their weapons had become nothing more than an energy donation to their opponents. One by one, Imperial ships began surrendering. Even Dex's loyal guards stepped away from him on the bridge. In the end, the great High Commander was escorted off his own ship by his former troops. A week later, representatives from hundreds of free worlds gathered on Earth for a historic meeting. They assembled in a massive conference center built specifically for this moment. The walls were transparent, giving everyone a view of the Earth's defense network shimmering in the sky above. Ambassador Thompson opened the session. "Welcome to the first gathering of the Galactic Council of Independent Worlds. Earth makes only one requirement for membership, a commitment to protect developing civilizations." Lisa Ree presented the technical side of this commitment. "We're establishing a network of Guardian stations throughout the galaxy. Any world that hasn't achieved spaceflight will be automatically protected until they're ready to join the galactic community." The gathering created something new. Not an empire ruling through force, but a cooperative of worlds working together. Each planet would govern itself, while the Council handled matters affecting everyone. Captain Thomas Green, now Admiral Green, led the new Galactic Protection Fleet. "Our ships don't carry weapons," he explained to the first group of recruits. "We carry shields. Our job isn't to fight, it's to protect." The former Imperial Palace was transformed into a museum. In its great halls, visitors could now learn about the history of the Empire and how Earth's resistance had changed everything. The last exhibit showed a simple sign: "Welcome to Sol System. No empires allowed." Back in Antarctica, Lisa stood in the ancient Guardian facility where it all began. New research had revealed more about the ancient race that built it. They too had faced an empire once, long ago. Instead of fighting fire with fire, they had created the ultimate defense and shared it with others. "The galaxy's entering a new age," Admiral Walker told the Earth Defense Force graduation ceremony. For the first time in recorded history, Strength isn't measured by the ability to destroy. It's measured by the ability to protect. Young civilizations reaching for the stars would no longer face conquest. Instead, they would find protection, guidance, and eventually, membership in a galaxy that had learned a better way. Earth had done more than ban an empire. It had made empires themselves obsolete. The great powers of the galaxy now competed not in weapons or territory, but in their ability to protect and nurture developing worlds. As Lisa activated another Guardian station near a young civilization's world, she smiled at the message it would display to any passing ships. Protected Zone, Earth Defense Network. No empires beyond this point. We guard. We protect. We welcome friends. The age of empires was over. The age of guardians had begun.